magical experimenters. Taylor Ellwood here, and this week we're going to be talking about the topic of why magic isn't meant to be prescriptive. Now you're probably wondering, what do I even mean by prescriptive? What do I mean when I say, when I'm talking about magic being prescriptive? Well, here's what I mean. When I talk about magic being prescriptive, I'm talking about the notion that you have basically what I'll call a recipe book approach to magic, where you have a set of instructions and you're supposed to do things exactly that way, and there's no real solid explanation provided as to why you're supposed to do things that way. Now, I'm not going to argue with the fact that a recipe approach to magic can be helpful on occasion. I mean, you see it with spell books, for example. Obviously, somebody put those spells together and developed them and put them out there so that people could use the spells to accomplish something. Now, whatever that something was, hey, no harm, no foul. But the fact is people put it together and you can actually pick up one of those books and do the spells in there and get some results. I'm not going to argue that. So you might say, well, then why are you arguing against a prescriptive approach? If it works, shouldn't that be enough? Well, the reason why I argue against a prescriptive approach is because I like to take what I call a descriptive approach to magic, which is where I describe a given process and technique. I might even lay it out in steps and tell you exactly what to do. But what I'm also going to do is I'm going to then encourage you to experiment and try variations of what I've done, and even come up with your own methodology and process that might be different from mine. And the reason why I like to do that is because I think that when we take an approach toward magic that is descriptive, what we're really doing is we're encouraging ourselves to discover how magic works and why it works, instead of just focusing on getting it to work. Now, there are lots of books out there on just getting magic to work. You can swing you basically can't swing a dead cat and not hit one of those books at this point. And that's okay. Again, there's a market for those books. There's a reason that a lot of people like those books. It's just like, hey, I need to summon up a spirit, then I'm going to pick up this book and I'm going to make it work because I just follow the instructions. Fair enough. But I like to know why magic works. I like to know what is making that working actually work the way it is. And if it doesn't work, I want to figure out why it didn't work. Because after all, if I follow the instructions and I'm not getting the results, then that's a problem for me at that point, because I have no way to go in and deconstruct that magical working and determine what exactly was or wasn't working. And so this is why I always advocate for a prescriptive approach to magic, because when you have a prescriptive approach to magic, what you're really doing is you're setting yourself up to discover not just, that magic can work, but you're discovering why it's working and how it's working. You're coming up with your own, you can come up with your own personalizations of it. If, for example, I do a practical magical working, and the way it's described works, but I know that if I changed a few things about it, it would work better. Why wouldn't I do that? Now, again, for many people, they may not even care about that. They might be just like, look, Taylor, I don't care. I just want to pick a book up, do the working in it, and have it work, and that's fine. I don't need to think it through. I don't need to personalize it or anything else like that. But I think for anyone who's really serious about their magical work, you're going to want to personalize it. You're going to want to create some variation. You're going to want to get creative. My own approach to magic is really is very creative at this point. I've got a ton of paintings behind me that are examples of magical workings and workings to spirits, practical workings, all of that. And it works for me. It may not work for everyone else, but it works for me, because I understand it. And I think that as you get better and better at magical working, you begin to discover what really works for you versus what doesn't work, versus what, is basically just something that, yes, it was written this way and it's presented this way, but I figured out that it wouldn't work. or I figured out a better way. So my own approach to writing about magic and presenting magic, I always try to, I basically describe how something ought to work, and I'll share, like, here's what you can do. And then what I'll do is I'll encourage you to go out there and test that and then do some experimentation of your own. And the reason I do that is because it's the way I learned magic. I read books on magic. I did what was in them, and then I started asking questions and discovering and exploring what worked and what didn't work. And because I asked questions and because I began exploring what worked or what didn't work about a given working, it's what helped me really learn how magic worked. So instead of relying upon a prescriptive approach where I'm just working out of a book, but I'm not really questioning anything and there's no explanation provided, I was able to dig deeper into the actual workings. And I will say that, this epidemic of recipe books has been around for a while. Like, it's not like it's anything new, okay? I mean, you basically have, you pick up a book from, the 1990s or earlier than that, and you'll see that to some degree. But you also see some really good books out there that are more descriptive and provide some different practices that you can do. And again, it may not be your cup of tea. I'm not going to knock it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with just saying, you know what, dude, I just want a book where it lays out the exact steps I need to follow. It's just, let's be very clear about that. That's a prescriptive approach to magic. That's what it's about. It's you do this step, you do this step, you do this step, and boom, there you go, you're done. And if you never vary from that, if you never go any further than that, that's okay. But if you want to go deeper into magic and you really want to understand how magic works, that's where the descriptive approach comes in handy, because that's where you start asking questions and you start exploring. And if someone shares an idea with you, you say, okay, in theory, this idea should work, but what could I do to take it even further than what this person shared? And that's really my approach to magic. And it's why, if you read my books, for example, you really don't get step-by-step instructions per se. I do lay things out there pretty clearly, I think, but it also requires that you actually are asking questions, and that you're curious about things, and that you want to learn more about how magic works. And the assumption really is that's why you're reading my books, because you want to learn more. You're not just satisfied with a prescriptive approach. You want a descriptive approach. So I think that, when we look at magic, we really do want to take this kind of approach that's ultimately descriptive, because it teaches us how to look at the world differently and how to experiment and explore magic differently. And that's always a good thing. Okay, just a short video this week. Just wanted to share that. It's something I've been thinking about since I'd posted a Facebook posting about it. And again, I'm not going to knock the fact that there are some good reasons to go with a prescriptive approach, but I think a descriptive approach to magic, especially for magicians who want to go deeper into magic and really understand how it works, is ultimately better. And that's what I advocate.